Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and don't forget that the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you this week and every week by the wonderful people at Stan's Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. The telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And with me today is a very, very special guest, and we'll tell you why. When I was a little kid, and yes, at one point in my life I was little, I used to go to all the St. Peter's College basketball games for one purpose and one purpose alone. And that was to watch my guest today play, because he was the hardest working guy on the court, and he didn't get a lot of shots on his own, but boy, oh boy, did he demand the rebounds, get a lot of offensive rebounds, and put the ball back in. He was a great, great player, first at Emerson High School in Union City, and then he went on to St. Peter's College and had a great career there. And then when he went on into a field of education, where he eventually went on to become the superintendent of schools in his hometown of Union City. And just recently now, he is now the president of Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey. And it's my special guest today, Bob Fazio. Bobby, how are you doing today?
Hey, Jimmy. Good to be with you. Doing great.
Glad to have you as my guest. So, all right, so let's turn the clock back. I'm going to say, a good 60 years, and talk a little bit about what was it like growing up in Union City at that time in your life, and whereabouts in Union City did you live at that time?
Well, I grew up in Union City on 14th Street and Summit Avenue, and right down the block from the Catholic grammar school that I attended, St. Joe's Elementary School, belonged to St. Joe's Parish. I'm one of 7 children, a middle child. Went on to Holy Family High School as a freshman. Al Baldini was the coach at Holy Family High School. And I wound up, starting varsity as a freshman in a very, very difficult league, going up against guys like Marty Shade, who played at Union Hill.
All right, but before you get into high school, talk a little bit about what was it like growing up on 14th Street, and were there a lot of kids in your neighborhood that were able to play, and did you play all sports?
I played all sports, boxball, wiffle ball, football, and it was just a regular kid back then. We just hung out, our parents knew we were up the block, and, it was a very, very different time period. And then, probably in 7th grade.
Was there a schoolyard there, Bobby, that you played in St. Joe's?
Yeah, Gilmore Schoolyard.
Gilmore Schoolyard, okay.
Schoolyard, and that was a beacon for some unbelievable games, maybe 6, 7, 8 games waiting to be played. You lost, you left. Unbelievable players that would come there. Danny Caradrillo, Nicky Gallus, Michael Corin, Kenny Slappy. Just prolific players. And, we'd all play in Gilmore Schoolyard. They'd venture up. And it was an incredible time period, and, like I said, my freshman year playing at Holy Family High School against all these incredible, players.
Yeah. But before you go into high school, let's talk a little bit about you growing up. And did you know at an early age that basketball was your sport, or was it the first sport you played organized wise?
Well, in the 7th grade, we won a big championship of the state, and we were.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah. Nick Mascarelli was the coach. Wizard, as you well know.
Very well, good man.
I him many, many times.
Yep.
But we went down. It was a team that was.
Did you play in New Orleans?
Finelli, myself, Louis Arias from Union Hill, really, really good players, and we wound up playing down in Georgia for the national championship. I was ruled ineligible because there was a height requirement of 5'6", so I wasn't. I was out on the court warming up, and they brought me back in, remeasured me, and a big front page news that I was excluded from playing because of the height requirement.
Oh, that's terrible.
In 7th grade, I got a taste of what it was all about, and I didn't get to play while we were there. Martin Luther King was assassinated, which was very, very traumatic. As a young kid, seeing what was going on in the cities down there, and then coming home and seeing what was going on. And we also got to have breakfast with Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer on the 18th hole down in Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
On that trip. So that was a special, special moment for me. As a young person, first time I ever flew on a plane. It was cool. Yeah, it was really, really cool. But that was my grammar school experience. I played a little CYO ball over there in Steve Bichardi land of St. Michael's. Steve Bichardi, who was just an unbelievable role model in my life. And Mike Bubinacci, Overty O'Connor, and that whole group group that played at St. Michael's, prolific players, prolific coaches. They had an impact on my life as well.
Did you play Little League baseball? Did you play any Pop Warner football or anything at all?
I played Little League baseball for the Bugs and Bees, Pep Novotny and Vito Diorio. You remember those legends?
Very well. They were your coaches?
Excuse me?
They were your coaches in Little League?
Yeah, they were my coaches.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was crazy because...
Who got a word in edgewise between those two?
Excuse me?
I said, who got a word in edgewise with those two?
Yeah, not too many.
Right.
Coach.
Well, then if Wizard was coaching with those two, then Wizard did most of the talking. But between Pepe and absolutely, those three right there might be on the tombstone, might be on the Mount Rushmore of Union City. Those three right there, Pepe Novotny, Vito Diorio, and Wizard Mastorelli. Those three right there might be the three most influential people to ever come out of Union City sports.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. And, Wizard took a liking to me because he was my big league coach. And he tells a lot of great stories about those times. But Pep and Vito were real tremendous role models in my life, like Hank Morano, my high school basketball coach. And, it was just a different world back then. And again, I was fortunate enough to go back and be the principal of Emerson High School and lead those guys.
Right.
As an educator, which was unbelievable the way they accepted me. Here I was their student. Then later I become their boss, and it was just it was an unbelievable experience the way they accepted me, rallied around me, were always there for me, and it was an incredible ride.
Well, Vito loved you to death. Vito was like, you were like Vito's boy, so that's, yeah. All right, so what was it about basketball that stood out and made it, you made it your sport?
Well, I realized early on that my family was not going to be able to, afford for me to go to college, right? I saw that my brothers and sisters didn't get financial aid. I knew that my only ticket was to play basketball, so I just really, really worked very, very hard at it. And, I was very, very fortunate that, I did get a basketball scholarship at St. University. I'll never forget them for that.
Okay. All right, well, go back before that now, and let's talk about high school. And what was it about going to Holy Family made you want to go there?
Well, there was a benefactor who paid tuition for me to go there. I went there with 5 freshmen. In a lot of ways, we were the original Fab Five. When you think back to that era, without Baldini putting together the group that was there, there was a player by the name of Bruno Caldwell who came out of the Duncan Projects in Jersey City, a great player. And, the Tommy Coviello, was a player who had, I think, 1,000 points at Holy Family. And we all went there, and, it was an amazing, amazing experience to be a freshman and be on a varsity level. I wasn't ready for it. I was a little thin, skinny kid. But playing in front of those big crowds early on motivated me and captured my attention. And then I just dug in.
And who were some of the kids that say the Fab Five? Who were the 5 that you took?
I would say it was Bruno Caldwell, who was the best. I think he went to Jacksonville University after. What happened was after our freshman year, Holy Family closed.
Oh, wow.
I ended up at Emerson High School.
Oh, okay.
So it closed, and so I went public. Vito went to the NJSIAA and appealed to them that I'd be allowed to play, because back then you weren't allowed to play. And I'll never forget it. He went to my classroom, and Hank Morano was teaching a social studies class, and called the both of us out and told me that the NJA ruled in favor of me, and that I was able to be eligible.
Okay.
And so, I played for.
So, but who were the guys that were the Fab Five at Holy Family?
Mike Mangini. It was myself. It was Bruno Caldwell. It was this kid Freddie Spina from North Bergen, and a guy by the name of Larry Traster. There was a kid Chet Walker from Weehawken. Again, this is a long time ago.
Sure.
And Tommy Coviello was a 1,000-point scorer. He was an older Brendan Early, who came from Weehawken.
Sure.
Good player. He was on the team, but they were older than us, and it was my first experience to play in front of packed crowds.
Okay.
I think Union Hill that year won the state sectional final. They had an unbelievable team with Snazamento and Pi Wagner and Marty Shade and Billy McKeever was the coach.
Yep.
I never forget, how tough they were. Quintanilla, they were just a tough team. The North Bergen High School team with Larry Traster and Dennis Tygo and Eva Sedley and just Ronnie Pasquale, just really, really great players. They were all great coaches. I mean, coaches back in Hudson County then were
unbelievable. Right.
Just unbelievable. But what an
just in North Hudson alone.
I remember playing against the late Jack Nickaroo.
Yep.
Games would be sold out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We wouldn't play till 8 o'clock at night.
People would sit there.
It was just an amazing time period in Hudson County basketball.
Okay. Did you know at that time when Holy Family closed that you were going to be able to go to Emerson and play right away, or were you a little worried about after being a varsity player at Holy Family and then not getting a chance to play?
Yeah, I was very concerned about it. That probably the year wasn't good enough to play at Emerson because they had great teams back then. But no, I wound up as a sophomore and I wound up starting right away. We had Kenny Jones and Oscar Fernandez and Richie Hearn and Billy Field, the late Billy Field.
God bless him.
Really good players. And I played my first year for Harry Orlando because Hank Orlando was at Fordham. Hank was coaching in college for a couple of years.
Right.
And then he left Fordham. The head coach got fired, and he left. And Digger Phelps went into Fordham at that time. He had that one team, then he wound up in Notre Dame.
Yep.
Hank comes back to Hudson County, and my junior and senior year, and both times we lost out to the late Jack Nickaroo on last-minute shots, and he went to the county tournament. But just unbelievable times, playing in Hudson County back in that area. Charlie Brown at Lincoln.
Yep.
Sam Kaplan at Dickerson. And, Tony Yankovic at Memorial, Billy McKeever at Union Hill. Just prolific coaches.
Jerry Halligan at Prep, but although you didn't play.
Jerry Halligan at Prep, and then Gene Sparta down at
Hoboken. Right.
Had, just Phil Baccarello and that whole crew down at Bayonne.
Well, Arnie Levan was the coach then, right? Yeah. Was Bernie Akin the coach at the Bayonne when you were?
Bernie was there, and then what was his name?
Arnie Levan. Yeah.
Took over right after that.
Well, didn't Bernie then go to St. Peter's?
St. Peter's College.
Right. Bernie coached you at St. Peter's for 1 year, right?
Well, what happened was the day I signed to go to St. Peter's College, Bernie O'Keefe, who was named the head coach, dropped dead.
Yeah.
And so then that's when Dick McDonald came in from Southern Illinois. Dick was the assistant coach when Walt Frazier won the NIT and he guarded.
Yep, in '67.
He got a job at St. Peter's for 3 years, and then after that he went over to become the athletic director. I think it was the athletic
at St. Louis University.
St. Louis University.
Right. All right, but all right. So, what was it like playing at Emerson? And did they accept you right away because of your basketball talent?
Well, you got to remember, I grew up in Gilmore Schoolyard in Union City, and the Dairy Queen was opposite Emerson High School, so we all hung out together.
Okay.
Even the Catholic school guys hung out together. Donnie Finelli, who was a prolific player.
Yep, at St. Joe's.
But then went on to Cornell and Great Ball at Barron Arrows, Rockies up there. He hung out with us. We had a whole cast of guys that went to all different schools that hung out. We had a wonderful bonding, friendships. When we were on the courts and competed, boy, it was unbelievable.
Okay. Now talk a little bit about your summer leagues and where did you play during. First of all, no, go back. Did you know early on that you liked being say the Charles Oakley, say, of Hudson County? That you would work hard to go get rebounds, and that's how you were going to get your points, that you weren't going to be able to pull up from 25 feet and hit jump shots, that you had to be a garbage pail type player.
Yeah, I knew I didn't have the skill set that, Michael Gordon had, or Jim Spinarco had, or Mike Boylan had, Jimmy Boylan had, or the McDonough kid who played center down at Hudson Catholic. I mean, they were really, really good players back then, and I didn't measure up to those guys. So I knew I had to build up myself and be in better shape and use my basketball IQ to find out where the ball was coming off the rim and, get my points that way. I was kind of like a Dennis Rodman type of play,
Yep.
Always banging and hustling and looking and that kind of thing. And knew my role and knew how to get it. So yeah.
Hey, my bitty basketball.
A little bit around the key area. Played against some 7-footers, and we would draw them out a little bit and then, go by them. But yeah, I did know that at an early age that I had to outwork others in order to be, on that level of playing. And that's what I did. I just worked hard.
All right, and that's what my biddy basketball coach, guy by the name of Dick Brannigan, from St. Paul's of Greenville, used to take me to all these different games all around the area. And then when he took me to my first St. Peter's game, he said, okay, pick a player that you want to follow and follow everything they do, and then I want to know like what they did in the course of the game that made you watch them. So I said, okay, I'm picking 34. And sure enough, I right away became fixated on Bob Fazio. And right then and there, you were my favorite player, and every time I went to a game, I made sure that I watched every single thing that you did. So in terms of knowing how you played and doing and how you were as a player, I know it all too well because it's in the back of my brain. It's not going to go anywhere away. And I remember going to those games first at the Armory and then at the brand new Yanatelli Center, which was unbelievable at the time. I remember going to your games and vividly watching every single move that you made, knowing fully well that if the ball was going up, you had a chance to go and get that rebound, no matter what it was. On the offensive side or defensive side, you were going to get the ball, and it was great to watch. But talk a little bit about after you left Emerson, and don't sell yourself short. In fact, of being not as good as some of the other guys you mentioned. You were all county, and in Hudson County, if you're named all county, that's like being named king. And so talk a little bit about leaving Emerson and then deciding to go on to college. And did you have any offers at all, or because you were undersized, you really didn't have a chance to get many college offers?
I did have offers. I was being recruited by junior colleges, some small Division I schools, but I wound up going to a place called Edward Williams Junior College at the time. I don't know if you remember Gordon Chiesa, but he
very well
coached at Providence and then went on to coach at Utah, be Jerry Sloan's assistant.
Yep.
Coached the great Carl Malone and John Stockton. Gordon tried to recruit me to a junior college, a team that called Lutheran Junior College. I was tinkering with it. That was one of Jordan's, first jobs. Then he went on to St. Thomas Aquinas and Spark Hill, where he coached Dennis Lyman and Tommy Higgins and Billy Field.
And Bobby Kilduff.
Three great plays.
Bobby Kilduff played there too as well.
Bobby Kilduff played.
Yeah.
They were great plays.
Yep.
And, I got lucky, to go to St. Peter's, but I went to this junior college, Edward Williams, which is on Fairleigh Dickinson's campus, and Al Lababo was the FDU coach.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it. We used to play before some of their games, and I was leading the country in scoring at the time at junior college.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I broke my hand on the bottom of the backboard. They didn't have the rubber underneath there. And believe it or not, I did get to touch the bottom of the backboard with my lack of jumping ability. And Lababo really wasn't interested in me. He said to me that I didn't play enough defense. And,
wow.
He was the kind of guy who, led the country in defense at the time. I think FDU was #1 in the country.
Always.
And
yeah.
so, I didn't get offered there, and I wound up going down to St. Peter's, and, I just...
well, why did you have to go to Edward?
I remember the first scrimmage that I played in. I didn't start, and I was appalled at the fact that I didn't start. And when I got in the game, I was out of my mind. And we were scrimmaging Peter Day, Ronaldo West, to Harry Morley. It was a blue-white scrimmage. And I was out of my mind that I didn't start. And then after that scrimmage, the rest was history. I started every game, at St. Peter's.
Okay.
And,
why did you have to go to junior college out of high school? Was it grades?
It was grades, SAT scores.
Wow.
I struggled. And I wasn't the honor student. And I worked hard academically as well. And so, it was a good thing for me to go there. And then, I really blossomed between senior year. That summer, I was so dedicated and really fixated on getting that Division I basketball scholarship that I lived in the schoolyard. I'll never forget it. I came to my first junior college game. I scored like 41 points. And he said to me in the hallway, Bobby, I made the greatest mistake of my life. He had me as a post player during my years at Emerson. And, I always wanted to come out a little bit away from the post. We were guard-oriented teams, basketball player, well-rounded basketball player.
Okay.
And then I went on to St. Peter's.
All right. So did you from this Edward Williams place? Did you have any offers at all to go to other colleges, or was St. Peter's the only place? Okay.
I had other places to go. Went to different schools. On the East Coast, and but I was fixated. I kind of turned away from any potential offers because I was still not a wedge to play in the 67, 68 NITs.
Yep.
I went to those games in the Garden.
Okay.
And I said to my
So did everybody. It seems like everybody I talked to said they all went to those games in the Garden. Everybody I talked to. Yep.
Yeah, and I went to both of those games. They beat Duke and Marshall, double overtime one of the
Yep.
games, and Webster scored like some ridiculous.
51. He had 51 points in the game against Marshall.
So anyway, when I went to that game, it was a sellout crowd, and I loved the environment. And I said, I want to go to Peters, and I want to lead up to an MIT. And that's how it all began.
Okay.
Hank Morano had close connections to St. Peter's College because he went there.
Right, played there.
Don Kennedy and Bernie Markowski told him, like, listen, I'm telling you, this kid can play there. I go down to St. Peter's, and they signed me up right away.
Right, and Don Kennedy already had retired, and Bernie Akin passed away. So what were you like? Here were your two sounding boards, and then they get Dick McDonald.
Don Kennedy said to me, if I played for him, I would have scored 2,000 points.
Okay.
He told me that all the time because I would have loved that coach. At St. Peter's, Jim, we had 4,000 point scorers.
Yeah.
I scored 1,600 points.
Right.
Adam Solomon scored 1,002.
Kenny Slappy
scored 1,004.
Yep.
Steve Richardson, who went to Powell Memorial.
That's right. Steve Richardson was on that team too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had Bernie Allen was on the team. Cliff Anderson was on the team. We had a really good team.
Yep.
I went to the NIT in 75. I went to the NIT in 76.
Yep.
So it was. We had a very good balanced team.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. But that's how I wound up at St. Peter's. I wanted to play in the Garden. We played a lot of games in the Garden back then because that's just the way it was.
Okay.
We played Rutgers in the Garden. We played St. John's in the Garden. All over in the Garden.
Well, they were always college triple headers that were at the Garden back then. And St. Peter's always managed to get on those triple headers. That's for sure. About 8 games.
It's a story that when I got Player of the Week for the Metro, you go over to a restaurant called Mama Leone's.
Yep.
And they had every Monday they had the Coaches Association. I'd go over there. I'd sit between Louis Conasecca and Jim Valvano. Two prolific coaches, right?
Yep.
Because I was Italian, when they were Mike Krzyzewski was at Army. Jack Powers was at Manhattan.
Right.
John Thompson was at Georgetown. Dick Vitale was at Detroit. These are all the teams that we played at St. Peter's.
Yep.
So it was like Hudson County basketball was the mecca for coaches. The metro area, the coaches that were coaching back then were incredible people. So
you were right at home, sitting between Conasecca and Valvano at a place like Mama Leone's, and having Italian style lunch. You must have been in your glory. Bring in the Sunday sausage, right?
I was the youngest kid in my class always, right? I was 17. When I graduated college, I was teaching in the classroom at 21.
All right.
So I was always on the young side. And, being in that environment as a young kid like you was, I was very impressed with Jimmy Valvano and Louis Conasecca. It was incredible. Just incredible memories.
All right. What was it like for you now as a playing college basketball for your first year, and the guy who recruited you suddenly drops dead and a new guy comes in? Did you have to worry about impressing this new guy all over again, and especially an outsider, somebody not from Hudson County like Bernie Akin who knew who you were? Did you have to worry about impressing McDonald?
Yeah, it was shocking to me, right? I signed my contract, down at St. Peter's with Bernie, and J.B. Wilson was the athletic director.
Yes.
And so I signed my contract, and when I get home, I get a call.
Well, your letter of intent. You don't want to call it a contract.
Yeah. So I did, and I remember the next day that I went down to to his wake and wearing a yarmulke as a young kid and just being like shocked at the whole thing. And then Dick Donald comes in and he had this reputation with Walt Frazier and then just winning the NIT and had no idea who he was. And there were other freshmen that were recruited. And listen, there was this kid Cliff Anderson who played in Essex Catholic.
Yep.
Who I'm telling you was every bit as good as I was, if not better.
Yeah, you worked harder.
He I was lucky enough to get a lot of the playing time. But Cliff, I believe Cliff made me a better basketball player. He challenged me every single day in practice. Okay. And he was just an absolutely great athlete. And he impressed me, and I always knew that there was a guy ready to take his spot, and I just worked really hard, all the time.
Well, that was your trademark, Bobby. Was hard work every single time. You definitely sweated more than any other human being that ever played. Because you were a sweaty, wet mess. But boy, oh boy, did you work hard on the basketball floor. That was your telltale sign. That was the giveaway that you always knew the hardest worker on the floor was Bob Fazio. So, and did you pride yourself on that? That you knew that you had to work that hard to be the good player that you were?
Yeah, like you heard Magic Johnson and Larry Bird say that they were always, practicing hard because they always knew somebody else was going to outwork them. And, you listen to Tom Brady talk and, how he always worked, Derek Jeter, all these great athletes always worked hard. I kind of had that mantra that I knew there would be somebody, if I wasn't working hard on a specific day, that somebody else out there would be working harder than me and want to take my job. And I didn't want to give it up. I loved it too much. I just enjoyed it too much that I never wanted to give it up.
Okay.
So I never had a day where I didn't do something physically related to basketball. I mean, I remember all my friends. Pat Novotny used to rent the house down the shore and bring all the guys down for a week down the shore. And I remember being in the schoolyard, 90-degree weather, all alone, shooting 200-300 jump shots, taking 200-300 foul shots, soaked in wet, gallon of water, no money in your pocket. That's all you did. You went from schoolyard to schoolyard to schoolyard and tried to find a run, where you could play with guys. And that's all I did. I worked every single day. And you know what? It was great because I was taught that at home. I brought it to the basketball court. Then I brought it into the classroom. And then I brought it into my career path where I've been very, very blessed with great health. This is my 45th year in this business, right?
Wow.
And I go to work every single day. I never miss, no matter what. Even with COVID, every single day, suit up and show up. And I'm glad I was brought up the way I was. I'm glad that I have the wife that I have that has the same work ethic. Try to instill that in our children. You never give up. You're just constantly looking to improve. And even at 66 years of age, I still continue to be a lifelong learner, a person that wants to, get better at what he does. I think it's really, really important to live my life that way. And that's what I try to do.
Okay. Well, we'll be back with the second half of our interview on the Hudson County Sports Podcast with Bob Fazio in just a bit, right after this word from Stance Sports Center. And Stance Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stans has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stans, plural, sports, plural, CTR.com. Again, that's Stans, plural, sports, plural, CTR.com. And check them out on social media for their latest creations. And if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast and you go down to Stan's Sports Center located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken and go visit my good friends Danny and Lou and Todd down at Stan's and you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast with my guest today, Bob Fazio, you receive 10% off on all retail that's in the store. That's not a bad deal. 10% off just by mentioning the Hudson County Sports Podcast. So thanks to the wonderful people down at Stan's for sponsoring the podcast like they have for the last 2 years. And we're glad to have them as our corporate sponsor. All right, we're back with our second half of our conversation with Bob Fazio. Bobby, talk a little bit about playing at St. Peter's at that time and Did you feel like you were at the top of the world, considering the fact that you were playing such a competitive schedule? There was no such thing as the MAC back then, so everything was all independent. But you were, played in that ECAC Metro where you'd get one game on a Friday and another one on a Sunday, or one game on a Saturday and the next one on a Monday, and you'd play some of the top teams in the East. And what was that like to be playing at St. Peter's at that time with playing that tough schedule?
Oh boy, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to St. Peter's. One was playing the Garden as many times as we did, but then the other was to have that opportunity to play, against some of the players that I played against. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. We played against the undefeated Rutgers team in the semifinal of the ECAC tournament in St. John's. It was me against Phil Sellers. A tremendous matchup. Great player, right?
Oh God.
You said something before about, me being a tough guy from Hudson County. One of the toughest guys in Hudson County that I ever played against, a guy that I really looked up to in a lot of ways, was Joel Arthur. I don't know if you remember.
No, I don't remember him. Where did he play?
He played at West New York.
At Memorial?
Athlete. Yeah, Memorial.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about a great player. He was a great player. And a tough guy. He helped me in his career get tougher.
Did he play with Jackie?
Excuse me?
Did he play with Jackie, or is he a little older?
He was a little older, but what a player. His two brothers played for Tony Yankovic, and they were great players. Maybe they played for Frank Grasso. You remember Frank Grasso?
Sure, yeah.
He coached at St. Joe's, but these were all legendary coaches. And I really respected Joel Arthur on a very high level. As I respected Marty Shade was a tough guy and a tough player, but I think
Marty Shade never met an elbow he didn't like. Boy, oh boy. And I'm talking into his 50s. He would be playing and throwing those elbows. Boy, he was...
Marty Shade was every bit one of the best high school players in Hudson County during my time.
Agreed.
Really, really good player.
He could play.
And, at St. Peter's, don't forget, we were playing in the Rainbow Classic out in Hawaii.
No, really?
Yeah, we played the Rainbow Classic.
I knew you played against the Dons. I knew you played against Bill Cartwright, right?
We played against the Fab Five. It was Bill Cartwright, who was the center for San Francisco.
Right. Winford Boynes, right?
James Hardy. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
He was a player and a half. And, the guard was Williams, the big Williams brother.
Right. Gus Williams.
Norm Nixon at the team, we played there. We played Georgetown with Terry Durod, who was a great player.
Great player.
Georgetown. In my junior year at Georgetown, John Thompson was the coach. I scored my 1,000th point against Georgetown. What a win for us! I mean, what a great win.
Wow.
We played Seton Hall with Billy Rafferty. What a character he was.
Sure. And they had some great teams, Seton Hall, back then, right?
Screaming at him. Hadi Mahan was his assistant.
Yep.
Played still close with Glenn Mosley to this day. And Tynes, Greg Tynes.
Yep.
Was on that team. And
Paul Lape.
Detroit had John Horn and Terry Tyler.
Yeah.
That was the coach.
Yep, and Vitale was the coach. You played with Slappy, obviously, and Paul Lape was the point guard at Bloomfield that went to Seton Hall. So did you play against Paul Lape then too, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. You remember the story about when Passaic played Bloomfield in the state tournament? Did you heard about that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Kenny Slappy, if I could just say a word about him.
Sure.
What a tremendous player. There were games that guy took over, and I'm telling you, in the Garden, I specifically remember a time he went up for a crucial rebound against Seton Hall. It's a half-court shot to beat Seton Hall at the buzzer. His feet were in my face. He had unbelievable athleticism.
Absolutely.
Playmaker. He fed me so many assists. He made it easy for me to score. He was really the best player on the team as far as I was concerned, and then went on to become prolific high school coach at the state.
Right.
And Kenny Slappy is one tremendous human being.
I agree.
I have a lot of respect for Kenny Slappy.
All right, but that state tournament game, Bloomfield against Passaic, when the two of them when Lape and Slappy were seniors, was legendary, and they were the two top guards in the state. Lape went to Seton Hall, and Slappy went to St. Peter's. So
Slappy talks all the time about the time we played there in the bandbox at Robert Waters in Union City.
Oh, you're kidding!
Slappy, we beat them in overtime. We had no right beating them at all. But we played them in a little gym. And Slappy goes, I took a shot from the corner and a kid from the stands blocked my shot. Like he was being facetious, of course, but he would make fun of like you had to take the ball out, you're stepping over the line,
right?
Down bounds, and Hank played this 2-2-1 press where we just pressed them and the place was bombed.
Why was that game at Robert Waters and not at Emerson High School?
Emerson High School didn't have a gym back then. The annex wasn't there.
Oh, you're kidding.
It was like one building, and Darrington was across the street. They knocked that down, and then they put the gym on. But we played in Robert Waters with our home games, and Union Hill played in Washington School.
Oh, my God.
It was unbelievable. What an atmosphere. Oh, my God.
Because Robert Waters, you couldn't shoot a shot from the corner.
No.
It was out of bounds.
And I remember Bob Hurley Sr. had just taken over St. Anthony's. And,
oh, he probably didn't know what the hell he was getting into. What's that?
And I believe Mike McNamara was one of the first players that played for Bobby.
No, they didn't. McNamara didn't play for Bobby.
Oh, he didn't play.
No. Bobby's first team was with Kenny Markowski.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Kenny played with me at St. Peter's too.
Sure.
I really mention him. What a player Kenny was. We played Oregon.
Don't you know what? Don't speak too much about Markowski. His head is going to get big enough as it is.
Well,
you know.
He was a great role model to me. He helped me transition to St. Peter's. He was a big brother and a mentor. And
he still is that to me right now, Bobby.
Kenny, but him and his brother Michael, who played at Jersey City State, come from a great Jersey City family.
Bayonne.
Kenny was some player.
They were from Bayonne, though.
Kenny outplayed. We played the Kamikaze Kids Oregon in the NIT. Greg Pallard was the forward that I went up against.
Right.
Ron Lee.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Kenny ate him that night in the Garden.
Yep.
I remember it exactly.
Yep. Kenny is a great friend of mine, and he'll get a kick out of the fact that we spoke about him on your podcast. I'm going to I'm going to call him and make sure that he listens to it. So, but he was a
tremendous role model to me back then, and he really helped me, assimilate into the culture at St. Peter's, to be under his wing. He didn't have to do that, and I'll never forget him for that. Yeah,
he's a very, very good friend of mine, and he also has helped me, tremendously over the years, and is about as humble as the day is long. He really, when we inducted him into the Hudson County Sports Hall of Fame, he didn't think he deserved to be in there, and then he goes, "Oh, there's so many others that belong in before me." Like he didn't realize how many other people in that Hudson County Hall of Fame scored 1,000 points in high school and in college. There's very, very few, like you, right? But that's.
I was very, very close, to have scored those points, but I again look at Kenny as Kenny was a level above me when it came to playing hoops.
Yeah.
And as you said, he was a very humble guy.
Very humble.
He was a humble man.
Still is humble, and thank God he's still with us. And you know the story about him, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that was a day that will live in infamy. I would swear to God that'll be a day that'll live in infamy. We won't go into the details other than the fact that the Jersey Journal's biggest mistake in history was putting on the front page of the paper, Peacock's hoop star Markowski found drowned in Hackensack River. Yeah, that was one of the biggest mistakes that the Jersey Journal ever did. So, and he was nowhere to be found. He didn't know that he was in the paper. He had no clue. Yeah, but Marco is a great friend and somebody who I talk to and still talk to on a regular basis, even though he's in beautiful North Carolina these days. So all right. So was that like the schoolyard of hoops, playing at St. Peter's at that time, playing against all those great competitions?
Oh yeah, in my mind, it was the place I wanted to go. Achieve the goal of getting there, and then wanted to be a part of the team to lead them to the NIT, which we were fortunate enough to do 2 years in a row. It was unbelievable. Playing in Jersey City County in front of those packed crowds, there was nothing like it. Yep. I remember we played in front of a packed crowd against Canisius, and
Larry Fogel was leading the nation in scoring. Yep.
And him and I went at it.
Yeah, but he dropped double nickels on you, though, Bobby. That's the bad news, though. He scored 55 that game, so.
I know. What are you going to do? I guess Alabama was right. He played defense.
Yeah, but I don't think he just dropped it on you. But Fogel led the nation in scoring and then got drafted by the Knicks. So, but he. Incredible player. Incredible. But those were the days. Going to the Armory.
And there was nothing like it. I mean,
Nothing like it.
my mother would go down to St. Peter's and buy 200 tickets, $5 a piece. We played the bar. And all the people from Union City would take the tickets, and they would all sit together. I had like my own little cheering section.
Oh, that must have been fun.
It was unbelievable that many people would want to go watch it play. And then, like from my perspective, of being able to play in front of those people all the time, and it was great. You know, just great. Judge Sam Pellis in that half court. St. Peter's College fan. My good friend, dear friend, who was a tremendous role model to me, Fred Kramer, who was the sports information.
God bless him. God bless him.
What he did for me was incredible. And then, of course, J.B. Wilson, who I had the ultimate respect for.
Same here.
The athletic director. Let's not forget Fabio Pignatelli, who was the president.
Right.
Who was a hands-on kind of guy.
Didn't know him at all, Bobby. So that he was long gone before I got to St. Peter's. But the other ones, Judge Zampella, Judge Byrne, who was there all at all the different games, right? And then of course.
What's amazing about Judge Byrne is both his daughters were teachers in Union City.
Oh, is that true?
That worked for me when I was principal there. Yeah.
Oh well, he was a class guy. I used to see at all the different games, and that was there was for me. That was perhaps one of my favorite jobs I ever had in my life was when I was the SID at St. Peter's. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Loved the competition. Loved game day. Got all gussied up and couldn't wait for game day to come. It was just a great deal. So.
Yeah, I was okay. I got to go back to St. Peter's on the alumni board, and then I also got to teach at St. Peter's College under the tutelage of Jim Jacobson. Jake, who everybody knows is down there for 53 years.
I think, yeah, just about that, right?
A great role model of our life. Saw him play every college basketball game. Then we became friends, and then he became my boss at St. Peter's. But to this day we stay in touch. Great man, great role model, and tremendous mentor in the field of education.
No question. All right, so
Dr. Caulfield.
Dr. Caulfield as well, too, son. All right, now. Talk to me a little bit about, did you know while you were in college that education was going to be your ticket out, or did you still think that maybe you had a chance of playing pro ball?
Well, I thought I had a chance of playing pro ball, and then when that didn't work out, I had a tryout down at Hudson Catholic. Bobby Hurley Sr. put a group together, and they came in to see a bunch of us play, and my dad was born. I have Italian dual citizenship. I could have had and could have played for a team in Milan. Was going over to the Taft Hotel to sign a contract, and then I backed out of it. I was filled with fear of leaving the country, and I didn't have the maturity at that time to take that leap to go play over in Europe. Like what Jackie Galloon wanted to play.
Right.
Dallas wanted to play. I didn't have that. So I went right into education where I wanted to do that. And at a very early age, rose through the ranks to become a leader.
Okay.
Educationally.
All right. Where did you first teach in Union City? And obviously you went right back to Union City, right?
Yeah, right back to Union City. Again, it was the same place for me to go. Didn't want to step outside my comfort zone. And had other opportunities. Could have worked for Converse Sneaker, could have worked on Wall Street, but didn't, and went into education. And I would say early on I took a couple of psychology classes.
Oh wow, okay.
I coached, and then in the middle of my second year there, the disciplinarian of the school got a brain tumor, and they asked me if I'd be interested to go in there. And because I was a big guy, and I said yes, and I became a disciplinarian at a very young age, working with Sandy Sanger, who became the superintendent of schools in Union City.
Sure.
Fantastic basketball player that came out of Emerson and St. And I wound up becoming a disciplinarian, becoming a vice principal at the age of 28, and then a principal at the age of 30. The rest was history, but I knew early on that education is where I wanted to be, and I loved every minute of it. My wife says to me all the time, you're one of the most people that just love your job every day going to it. And to this day, being president of Don Bosco, I just love going to work every day. I enjoy it.
Okay. All right. So you knew while you were at St. Peter's that you wanted to get into education. Was that your major?
Yeah, that was my major, and having guys like Jake, teaching you education classes, and Hardy, and Dr. Hardy, and
Good man.
Dr. Nolan, and Dr. Caulfield. I saw these men, and I said, I want to be like one of them.
Okay.
And that's exactly what made me want to go into this business. Was Dr. Hardy, Dr. Jacobson, Dr. Caulfield, and Dr. Nolan.
Well, Dr. Hardy and Jake are good friends, so they'll be glad that their names are being mentioned in the podcast. I know Dr. Hardy will listen to it because he listens to all of them. So Jake, I'm not so sure. I don't even know if Jake sits in front of a computer. So yeah, but all right. So did you realize that you were going to be able to move up the ladder as fast as you did, or were you content at say 25, 26 that you were going to sit in a classroom?
No, I mean, I knew I wanted to be an administrator because I just felt like I could help more people. And, being an administrator, it requires leadership, right? I always felt like that was one of the talents I had was being able to lead. And I loved it, I loved getting up in public speaking. And it was just all perfect. It was a perfect marriage for me early on. I really knew, like I said, having those role models at St. Peter's University early on and seeing the way they carry themselves, I just said I want to be that. And that's kind of like how it all happened.
Okay.
And so, I really did want to become a principal at a young age, and it happened. I was very, very lucky. And, I just had a wonderful, wonderful career in Union City.
All right. How long did you stay as the principal for?
I was principal of an elementary school for 5 years, and then we opened the middle school where President Clinton and Vice President Gore visited us. And that's when I was featured on 60 Minutes because of the computer partnership. We had computers in Union City in 1993.
Wow.
That Senator Menendez brought in with a St. Peter's graduate, Al Copy, from Bell Atlantic. We had 130 students that were involved in this Project Explore. It was kind of like really like we were the pioneers of computers in school and home in 1993.
Oh God! Wow.
And because of that, we wound up. President Clinton and Vice President Gore announced their second run for president from Christopher Columbus Middle School where I was the principal.
Wow.
And then, President Clinton comes to Union City together for 3.5 hours. We had a tremendously fun time together, and both fed off each other during the visit.
I hope you have a picture of him with you and him somewhere, right? Do you?
Yeah. Well, I was on the cover of St. Peter's Magazine with him.
Oh wow, okay.
The three of us together. Matter of fact, Freddie Cranwell put that together. And it was on the front page of all the papers. They announced their candidacy for a second term in the White House, so it was everywhere.
Right.
And it was quite interesting. And then from that led a shot with 60 Minutes and Leslie Stoll coming to Union City, which was a lot of fun. And
I can imagine.
That was something that was special. I'll never forget it. And I was very, very grateful that they chose Union City to do this, but it was really a lot of people that made it all happen.
Do you know why, Bobby? Why they chose Union City? You have any idea? Did they tell you?
I think Congressman Menendez had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
I think that his relationship with Al Copy, the fact that this was a trial experiment, with the computers in school and home, many of the students that they wanted to go into an urban area and see if the technology would keep those students in their home and that they wouldn't move around as much. And sure enough, that happened where they stayed put. They wanted to be part of this project.
Okay.
Those kids went on to Tier 1 colleges. It was a very, very successful program. I got invited down to the Rand Corporation where Senator Kerry was there and Bill Gates and Newt Gingrich. I got to talk with them about, the importance of it, of wiring all the schools in America, and what I saw as an instructional leader of the school, how the computers and technology helped reform what we were doing in the classroom with teachers and students becoming partners in their educational journey. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time period. And sure enough, like you saw, the rest was history with computers and technology and how the whole thing blew up. We were the pioneers of that happening in Union City, Hudson County. and to the state of New Jersey.
Now, that must have been a very, very proud moment for you to be able to do that for all those kids.
It was a proud moment for me, but also a proud moment for Union City because we got so much recognition because of this. We were on the threshold of the state taking over our school district.
Right.
And I remember, Tom Hyten became the superintendent of schools. Through his leadership and put together a tremendous team, we were able to right the ship, and the state didn't come in and take us over. And then, we got this partnership through Congressman Mendez. We had, literally, Jim, we had thousands and thousands of visitors in our school after the presidential visit. People wanted to know what these computers would do and how we were integrating it into the curriculum. And just, it was unreal. I'm talking about from all around the world. They were coming from Switzerland, the Netherlands, Germany. They wanted to see this. China.
Wow.
To see what this program was and how it was working. It was such a fun time. It really was. Okay. And then I left there when I went to Emerson High School as the principal. And
how long were you at Emerson High School for?
As like I did on a basketball court, I went from school to school, and worked with a great group of teachers and administrators around school improvement. And that's what I did my whole career, even as an assistant superintendent. I always worked with principals and with administrators and teachers, and loved every minute of it.
Okay, so how long were you the principal at Emerson High School for?
I was principal at Emerson High School for 4 years. I left there and went uptown to Roosevelt School. Kind of took over a school that was struggling again, around school improvement process. Went there and went back to Emerson a second time. Stayed there, and then I became assistant superintendent. And then it was to put the Union City High School together, and I led that team of being one of the key members of the high school being built, along with working with Dave Wilkins, who became the first principal in Union City High School history, working with him, bringing both Emerson and Union together, both faculties.
All right, how tough was that, Bobby? How tough was it a transition to take the two schools that were very, very successful and taking Emerson and Union Hill and forming one Union City High School? How tough was that?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was not easy because you had two faculties that had, two different ways of doing things, right? And I think the greatest lens of why it worked was because of Dave Wilkins of Union Hill and myself. We were tremendous friends, even though we were tremendous rivals. We were both able to keep things in perspective. And I think because of the fact that he had a tremendous farm up there, I had a tremendous farm downtown, that both of our personalities, came out and coming together and bringing both faculties together. It was challenging, but it was done in such a nice way. We both have similar values and morals.
But it was controversial, though, Bobby. There were a lot of people that did not want that to happen, right?
Yeah, it was very controversial. And, you got to remember that, we were a team in Union City.
Yep.
Which was, I think, very important. And we realized that if there was only going to be one high school that was built, that it had to be Union City High School. We couldn't have made Emerson. So there was a plan to make that Emerson and then another one down to Union Hill. When funding dried up and we had to go to one high school, we knew that the right thing to do for all the students in Union City was make it one high school.
Okay.
And that's what we did. And we came around, as much as everybody had a difference of opinion on things, we rallied around what was the best for all students in Union City. That decision was made, and then the rest was history. We came together, fought through it, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time putting the whole thing together.
I don't think I ever asked you, and I don't even know if I know the answer, but how in the world did we come about putting the high school at the location of Union City Roosevelt Stadium, and then who came up with the idea of putting the stadium on the roof, which is definitely one of the most unique perspectives that you get in all of New Jersey, is to go see a football game or a baseball game up on the roof?
Well, I remember as a student in Union City at Emerson High School, there were plans drawn up even back then of putting, because it's the most densely populated city per square mile in New Jersey, if not the country, because it's only 2 square miles and it's populated with, I don't know, couple 100,000 people.
Right.
Space is at a premium, so there was always talk about utilizing that space and putting a stadium on top. And then Georgetown, I believe, became one of the first schools that did at Georgetown University. And Union City always had that in mind. And sure enough, when the funding came through with the SDA, and they were going to build a high school, that was the design that the architects put together, and that was what the city thought.
So they were going to put the high school there all the way? There was no question that was the best place to put the high school?
Yeah, originally it was supposed to be Emerson High School on that stadium property, and then uptown there was a location where there was going to be a Union City High School. There were going to be two specific high schools that were built with SDA money.
Wow.
But then we had a financial crisis, and SDA had to scale back, and they could only build one school, and that's when the decision was made. For the one high school, the Union City High School, with the stadium being on top of the roof was always something that was wished for. And, through Green Acres monies and funding, they were able to do that.
Well, it definitely is perhaps the most unique place to watch either a baseball game or a football game in the state of New Jersey. It's really a unique perspective. It really, and it's a gorgeous building. It's a gorgeous facility. It's now been there for, I think now this is the 12th year of Union City High School, which is amazing to think that, like say somebody me who knew of the Union Hill Emerson rivalry, and now to think that there is no such thing and that they're both part of the same school. It's really wild. So. Okay. All right. So now you moved your way up to being the assistant superintendent and then the superintendent, or just assistant?
No, just assistant superintendent, and that's where I ended my career in Union City as assistant superintendent.
And after how many years that you worked in Union City total?
37.
37 years, right?
37 years.
Think back to when you were a kid. Did you ever think that was going to be possible? That you were a kid, a snot-nosed kid from 14th Street, to be the absolute, one of the top movers and shakers in Union City, as being the principal at Emerson High School and then the assistant superintendent of the school district? Did you ever think that was possible?
No. Never thought it was possible. Never realized that could happen. I just, again, like my basketball career, just worked hard.
Yep.
And I was very fortunate that a lot of people took chances with me. I had a lot of good people around me. Sandy Sanger being one of them, the mayor of Union City being the other, Bruce Walters, the superintendent, Tom Hyden. There were a lot of people that took a liking to me, saw some ability that I had, but also saw that my ability was limited, but my work ethic was unbelievable. And, I grew into the job of being a principal, and I grew. And I always wanted to remain teachable, so I always stole a lot of ideas from a lot of people who were a lot smarter than me.
Okay.
And, I networked with them. I networked with the Jakes of the world, St. Peter's, and different people. There have been so many people that I looked up to. Jack Wislowski at St. Peter's.
Oh, God, no.
Joe Corriello at Memorial High School in West New York, and Frank Argiulo, at St. Joe's in West New York. There were so many tremendous people that took time for me and showed me the way. Vinny Askery's at North Bergen.
Yep.
Just great people. Billy McKeever at Union Hill, another great role model in my life. I've been very, very fortunate that people, helped me.
Okay.
And I try to do the same thing. Always pay it forward, right, Jim?
I agree with you there. Okay. So now tell me a little bit about, after 37 years, what made you make the decision to retire?
Well, I just felt, I had daughters in college. I had a son who was out in Hawaii and Pacific. I had a daughter at JMU, I had a daughter at Penn State, and one at IHA. And, I just knew that, retiring was the right thing, and I could get eventually then on to another career path. And that's what made me do it. I loved Union City. It was a tough thing to retire, but for my family, I thought it was the right time. And for me, I felt like I gave Union City everything I had, and it was time for change.
Okay.
And then this opportunity comes at Don Bosco.
All right, but before that, now you were totally out of the education business for what, about 3 years?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. You talk. Then all of a sudden you get lured back in. Talk a little bit about that. You were at an all-girls school first, correct?
Correct. And when I left Union City, I went to an all-girls school in Hartsdale, New York. I got a call from St. Peter's saying to me that there was an opportunity there, and they thought I'd be a good fit for it. So I interviewed for the job. I became the first white person in the school's history.
What was the name of the school?
It was called Maria Regina in Hartsdale, New York.
Okay.
And I went over there and I gave 2 years, and I wasn't fond of the commute to Tappan Zee Bridge at the time. I wasn't fond of it. So I kind of left there and took a hiatus and was out of work for 2 years. My in-laws was sick and I was able to do some help with that. And then this opportunity in Don Bosco opened up. A friend of mine said, "Why don't you think about it?" I'm like, I don't know, I might be overqualified for that. And lo and behold, after 4 or 5 months, I became the acting principal of Don Bosco. And then after 2 years, I became the president. So it's been quite an experience, quite a journey.
And how long have you now been at Don Bosco for now? What, 3 years?
6.
6 years! Oh my God, time flies, Bob. It really does. Time flies. Okay.
And, it's been an unbelievable journey for me.
All right. Now before we close, let's talk a little bit about your family. Your wife is Maureen, who was a good athlete in her own right when she was in high school, and she became a basketball official for a while too, right? Wasn't she a ref?
Maureen was an outstanding high school player herself. She scored well over 1,500 points at St. Joseph Westfield, and then went on to Montclair. I played for Maureen Delkin.
Yep.
Icon of Emerson and St. And she played with Alice Schmidt.
Yep.
And that group, Tracy Brown. Then she comes into Union City. She becomes a phys ed teacher. She starts to coach. And then we began to have a family. And I had a son who went to Bosco.
What's his name?
Robert Jr.
Okay. And he's the one that now lives in Hawaii?
No, he went to Hawaii. He went to Ramapo, then he went to Hawaii at Pacific, and then came back, graduated from Ramapo. He works in New York City right now.
Okay.
At the new college, and he's married. And then I have a daughter, Kelly, who's to IHA and James Madison. She's in the cosmetic industry. Casey, who swam at Penn State for 4 years. She now works in the health industry. And my youngest is a senior at UConn, who's an athlete right now. Catherine.
She plays volleyball at UConn?
She played volleyball and swam she played for volleyball for Maria Nolan, another legendary coach.
That's correct. Yep.
And friend of mine, great friend of mine.
Same here.
And yours. And she played for Maria for 4 years, had an outstanding career with Catherine. And she then went on to go to UConn, where she's now swimming.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
And she's a senior?
Our children have been blessed.
Bobby, your youngest is a senior at UConn?
Yes, she's a senior at UConn.
Boy, time flies. It really does.
I recently saw Danny Hurley up there while I was watching him compete. And it was good to see Danny. And then I said that I hadn't seen your dad in a while. And then lo and behold, Bobby did a clinic up here in Don Bosco. So it was great. I saw both of them.
Wow, that's not bad. All right. So all told now, and no hints of retiring. You like your job at Don Bosco? You're going to stay there for a while?
I like what I do. I can't say that it's easy through this COVID. This has been a game changer.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. But we're plowing through it and doing the best that we can. I do enjoy the people that I work with. It's a tremendous campus, a tremendous atmosphere, with a tremendous board, and a tremendous Salesian community. So yeah, listen, everybody's got to hold court sometime, and I'm just really, really lucky. Maureen retired, so that sometime might be sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Because I want to spend a lot of time with her. She certainly supported my career beyond anything that you could ever ask for from a person. And so, it's almost about time for me to spend some time with her, and for us to, we have 3 of our children that are going to be getting married this year, and so we're looking forward to that. And hopefully, grandchildren will be, not in a distant future.
No, don't rush it too fast, and worry about paying off the weddings first, right? Yeah, you better go. You may have to find a second job to pay for weddings, right? Yeah. So all in all, to sum up everything, Bobby, how great of a life has this been for you? And when you think about it, it's been a life that started through sports. And can you just relay that message a little bit about how blessed you are to have the life that you had, and without sports, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank my parents who brought me up the right way and told me no when no meant no.
Hey, you grew up in a family of 7. No meant no meant no meant no.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And all the things that I heard as a kid, came to be true. When I look at my life, I look at myself as a very average person, average athlete with an average IQ, with average ability that just worked as hard as he possibly could. And I may not be the smartest guy or the best basketball player that ever walked on the court, but the one thing that I can take away is that I always gave 100% every day. And I'm a firm believer of not counting the days, but making each day count. And I think when you live by that mantra, good things happen. Because when you grind it out in those days where you just don't feel like doing it, you're building your character and you're building your reputation. I think people see that. So when I look at my life, I really believe I've been blessed with like the greatest woman in the world, Maureen, with a great family. And I just thank God that He's given me so many blessings. I sometimes pinch myself because I don't think I deserve all that I've done. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride. And I have no regrets, none at all. The one thing that I've always tried to do, Jim, is to treat people as the way I wanted to be treated. And sometimes I fall short, and sometimes you hit it out of the park. But you just got to get up every day and suit up and show up, and that's what I try to do.
Well, you definitely are downsizing or down emphasizing your athletic ability, because you were not an average athlete. You were above an average athlete, and your name still appears on the top 10 scoring list and all time at St. Peter's College. So obviously you did something right. And obviously your hard work has paid off in what a great career you've had in education, and you've got a great family, and there isn't a person I know that could say a bad thing at all about Bob Fazio. And the one thing that I'm very, very proud of is that, yes, I remember watching you religiously as a player, but then later on in life, we became friends. And I'm really, really happy about that that's somebody who I looked up to, I became friends with. And it's been a joy for me to get to know you as a friend over the last 30 plus years. So,
Jimmy, if I could just say one thing.
Sure.
I really want to give a shout out to Stans and Ray Sarita. Ray
oh, God bless him.
And Danny both were very, very good to me. There were times where I wasn't able to get a pair of sneakers. Vito DiOrio brought me down there. And Ray always worked with me. God rest his soul. He was very, very good to a lot of athletes in Hudson County.
Amen.
He just followed in his footsteps. So, I want to thank them as well.
Well, and they'll be glad to know that the message hit home. They're both great men, and so is Louie, and so is Todd. They're just great down there at Stans, and I'm very, very grateful that they've signed on to help me put this together for the last 2+ years. So, and it only took me 2+ years to finally get you to sit down and talk to me for an hour, but our time has finally come. Bobby, thank you so very, very much for being a guest today. It's been my pleasure to watch you over the years and to consider you as a friend, and all my best to you always, and to Maureen as well.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. It was great to be with you.
All right.
Thanks for everything you do, Jimmy, too.
All right. You take care of yourself, Bobby. Bye-bye. And that was my special guest today, Bob Fazio, who had a great career as a basketball player at Emerson High School, and then later on at St. Peter's College, and is now the president of Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey. Thanks so very much for listening to today's podcast. Don't forget that the podcast is brought to you every week by Stan Sports Center, which is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stan's Sports CTR. That's Stan's plural, sports plural, CTR.com. And check them out on social media for the latest creations. That's Stan's Sports Center, 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there, 201-798-4466. And don't forget, if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast and mention that you listen to the podcast with Bob Fazio, you will get 10% off on everything retail in the store. Not a bad deal. So thanks to Stans for being our sponsor. And thanks once again, to my executive producer, Johnny Haig, who is my great nephew. But more importantly, without him, this podcast would not take place. So thanks so much for listening this week to the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'll be back next week with another edition. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Jim Haig. Have a pleasant afternoon.